The human captain's grin. We didn't understand until it was too late. Part 1. Captain Daniel Wright stood tall as the doors to the meeting chamber slid open. His uniform was crisp, his posture perfect, and a smile sat firmly on his face. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Sci-Fi Confederation, and everyone felt the weight of the moment. "Welcome aboard the UNSS Horizon," Captain Wright said, his grin never wavering. The alien delegation paused at the entrance. High Commissioner Vexlara, a tall being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, tilted her head in what seemed like confusion. Behind her, 6 other Sci-Fi representatives shifted uncomfortably. "We are honored by your hospitality, Captain," Vexlara said finally. Her voice translator gave her words a metallic quality. "Though we must ask, are you in some form of distress?" Wright's smile didn't falter. "Not at all. Why do you ask?" "Your facial muscles are contracted in a sustained manner. Our research indicates this can be a sign of pain or social anxiety in humans." Lieutenant Olivia Ross, standing to the right of her captain, kept her face neutral with effort. She had served under Captain Wright for 3 years and knew his smile well. It wasn't the warm one he used when praising crew members or the quick one he flashed when hearing good news. This was his tactical smile, the one that appeared when he was 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. "It's simply a greeting expression," Wright explained, "a sign of goodwill among humans." The Sci-Fi delegates exchanged glances, their head tentacles pulsing with colors that Ross couldn't interpret. They seemed unconvinced, but didn't press the matter. The meeting moved to the large round table at the center of the room. Science Officer Kevin Patterson presented data about the expanding Makari Empire, the shared threat that had brought humans and Sci-Fi to the same table despite centuries of separate development. "The Makari have taken 3 star systems in the past month," Patterson explained, pointing to the holographic map. "Their pattern suggests they'll reach Sci-Fi space within weeks and human territories within months, which is why an alliance is logical," Wright added, still smiling. "Together, we stand a better chance than either of us would alone." Throughout the 4-hour meeting, Ross noticed that the aliens kept stealing glances at the captain's face. His expression remained unchanged even when discussing casualty projections and worst-case scenarios. The constant smile seemed to unsettle the Sci-Fi more with each passing hour. When they took a short break, Ross approached her captain in the side corridor. "Sir, the aliens seem disturbed by your expression," she said quietly. Wright took a sip of water. "I've noticed. May I ask why you're maintaining it?" The captain lowered his voice. "The Sci-Fi evolved from herd prey animals, Lieutenant. Their emotional displays are transparent by necessity. Their survival depended on clear communication within the group. Our research shows they're deeply uncomfortable with emotional ambiguity. And your smile is ambiguous." "Precisely." Wright's grin remained fixed. "They can't tell if I'm being friendly, if I'm nervous, or if I'm hiding something. It keeps them off balance." "You don't trust them," Ross realized. "I don't trust anyone who came to us only when they needed something," Wright said. "The Makari threat is real, but I suspect there's more to the Sci-Fi's sudden interest in humanity than simple alliance building." When they returned to the meeting, High Commissioner Vexlara presented the terms of a defensive pact. The document seemed fair on its surface. Shared technology, coordinated defense strategies, mutual protection. As Wright signed the agreement, his smile grew just a fraction wider. The Sci-Fi delegation shifted uneasily in their seats, their skin displaying ripples of color. "To new friendships," Wright said, raising a ceremonial glass. "To survival," Vexlara responded, her eyes never leaving the captain's unwavering grin. Later, as the aliens boarded their shuttle to return to their ship, Ross overheard 2 delegates speaking to each other, not realizing their translators were still active. The human captain's face. "Do you think it's a defect or a threat?" "I don't know, but I've never seen any creature bare its teeth for so long without attacking." The human captain's grin. We didn't understand until it was too late. Part 2. 2 months passed since the alliance began. The crew of the UNSS Horizon worked alongside their new Xalfori allies, but not all was well beneath the surface. Science Officer Kevin Patterson sat at his station, comparing data sets with a deep frown on his face. For the third time that week, the numbers didn't match up. The Xalfori reports about Makari fleet movements were missing key details that his own scans had picked up. "Find something interesting?" Captain Wright asked, appearing beside Patterson's station with that ever-present smile. "Yes, sir. The Xalfori tactical reports haunt a Makari scout group in Sector 7. Again, Patterson lowered his voice. "That's a pattern now. They're holding back information." Wright nodded slightly, his grin unchanged. "Good work, Patterson. Keep tracking the discrepancies, but don't mention them to our guests." Later that day, Captain Wright called a meeting with the Xalfori liaison officer. The alien sat stiffly across from Wright in the small conference room, his outer scales shifting between purple and blue colors. "We noticed some gaps in your intelligence reports," Wright said, smile fixed in place, "particularly around the Makari movements near the Delphi cluster." The liaison's neck tendrils flattened, a sign of discomfort, according to the crew's xenobiology briefings. "A simple oversight, Captain. Nothing intentional." "Of course," Wright replied, his grin widening just slightly. "Simple oversights happen to everyone." When the Xalfori left, Lieutenant Olivia Ross entered. "He was lying, wasn't he, sir?" "Almost certainly," Wright said. His smile remained, but his eyes had gone cold. "Have Communications Specialist Carter increase surveillance on their transmissions." In her small workstation, Amy Carter worked through the night. The captain's orders had been clear: monitor all Xalfori communications without being detected. It wasn't easy. Their encryption was advanced, and officially, allies weren't supposed to spy on each other. By morning, she had something. Carter requested an urgent meeting with the captain. "I found this in a transmission sent to the Xalfori homeworld," she explained, showing Wright and Ross a decoded message on her tablet. The message was incomplete, but certain phrases stood out. "Humans remain unaware and continue strategic positioning," followed by "both humans and Makari will be vulnerable when," before the decryption failed. Wright's smile didn't falter as he read it. If anything, it grew slightly more pronounced. "Good work, Carter. Keep this between us for now." "Permission to speak freely, sir?" Ross asked when Carter left. "Always, Lieutenant. Your constant smile when dealing with the Xalfori. They're becoming more unsettled by it. Yesterday I overheard 2 of their officers discussing how humans might be psychologically unpredictable because of it." Wright nodded. "That's the point, Olivia. They evolved with transparent emotional signals. To them, my smile is like static noise. They can't read past it to predict what I'll do next." "And what will you do next, sir?" Ross asked. "Spring the trap before they can set it," Wright answered, his grin unwavering. "But first, we need to know exactly what they're planning." That evening, during a joint tactical briefing, the Xalfori commander Zal Thur presented a new strategy against the approaching Makari forces. The plan positioned human ships at the front of the formation, supposedly because of their superior shield technology. Wright listened, smiling all the while, asking occasional questions that made the commander hesitate. After the Xalfori left, Security Chief Eric Johnson approached the captain. "Sir, I've analyzed their battle plan. If we follow it, our ships will be caught in a crossfire between the Makari main fleet and the forces hiding in the asteroid belt. The forces that the Xalfori reports don't mention," Wright said, still smiling. "Exactly, sir." Johnson paused. "They're setting us up." Wright's grin remained steady as he looked at the star map. "Then we'll need to adjust our approach. But we'll keep smiling while we do it." He turned to his officers. "Let them think we're still in the dark. Their confusion is our advantage." Ross watched her captain's unchanging expression and finally understood. The smile wasn't just unsettling to the aliens. It was a weapon, and the Sci-Fi had no defense against it. The human captain's grin. We didn't understand until it was too late. Part 3. The Epsilon Nebula glowed with swirls of blue and purple gas. It was beautiful, but no one on the bridge of the UNSS Horizon had time to admire the view. The Makari fleet had been spotted at the edge of the nebula, and battle was coming. Captain Wright stood calmly at the center of the bridge, studying the tactical display. His smile remained fixed as the Sci-Fi commander Zalthar appeared on the main screen. "Captain Wright, our ships are in position," Zalthar said. "Your vessels should move to these coordinates immediately." A set of numbers flashed across the screen. "Thank you, Commander," Wright replied, his grin unchanging. "We'll adjust our position shortly." When the communication ended, Security Chief Eric Johnson stepped forward. "Those are the same coordinates we discussed yesterday, sir. If we go there, we'll be sitting targets." "I know," Wright said. He turned to his communications officer. "Send new coordinates to all human ships. Formation Delta 6. Lieutenant Ross looked up sharply. "Sir, that's not what we agreed to with the Sci-Fi." "Exactly." Wright's smile grew a fraction wider. "When the Sci-Fi ask, tell them there was a minor navigation error, just a small adjustment." The human fleet moved into their new positions, staying well away from the trap that had been laid for them. The Sci-Fi command sent 3 urgent messages, each one more demanding than the last. Wright responded to each with the same calm smile and vague explanations about technical difficulties. When the Makari attack began, it didn't go as anyone had planned. The enemy ships emerged from the nebula exactly where Johnson had predicted, directly in line with where the human fleet would have been if they had followed the Sci-Fi's instructions. "They knew," Ross whispered. "The Sci-Fi must have told them where we would be." Wright nodded, still smiling. "And now neither side understands what's happening." On the screen, they could see the Makari ships firing at empty space, expecting to hit human vessels. The Sci-Fi fleet was caught unprepared, scrambling to adjust to the new reality. Wright opened a channel to all human ships. "Fire on the Makari rear guard. Protect the Sci-Fi left flank." The order surprised everyone, but they followed it without question. The human ships swooped in, targeting the exposed Makari ships with precision. "Sir," Johnson said quietly, "why are we helping the Sci-Fi after they tried to betray us?" Wright's smile never faltered. "Because, Chief, sometimes the best way to confuse your enemies is to help them when they least expect it." The battle raged for 3 hours. The human fleet moved in patterns that made no sense to either alien force, appearing where they weren't expected and avoiding areas where traps had been set. Throughout the fight, Wright kept his communications channel to the Sci-Fi command ship open. His smiling face appeared on their screens as he calmly gave orders that saved their ships while exposing the Makari weaknesses. By the time the Makari retreated, the Sci-Fi were in disarray. Their betrayal had failed, but the humans had saved them anyway. No one understood what was happening, except Captain Wright. Commander Zalthar requested a private communication with the human captain. When the alien's face appeared on the screen, Wright noticed how the commander's neck tendrils were fully extended, a sign of extreme stress. "Your ships were not where they were supposed to be," Zalthar said accusingly. "Just a small adjustment," Wright replied, his grin unwavering. "Fortunate, wasn't it?" The Sci-Fi commander stared at Wright's smiling face for a long moment. "Your expression, it has not changed since the battle began. Not even when your ship was under direct fire. How is this possible?" Wright leaned forward slightly, his smile growing just a bit wider. "Perhaps humans are more complex than you realized, Commander." After the communication ended, Ross approached her captain. "They're afraid of you now, sir." Wright nodded, his smile firmly in place. "Good. Fear makes people honest, and we're about to need some honesty from our allies." The human captain's grin. We didn't understand until it was too late. Part 4. The battle was over, but the real fight was just beginning. Engineer Maria Garcia worked through the night in the UNSS Horizon's computer core. Captain Wright had asked her to check the shared tactical systems, and what she found made her blood run cold. "Captain," Garcia said the next morning, her voice tired but urgent, "you need to see this." She showed Wright her findings on a secure tablet. Hidden in the code that Sci-Fi had provided was a backdoor program, malware that would have shut down the human ship's defense systems during the battle. It was set to trigger when our ships reached those specific coordinates, Garcia explained. If we had followed their positioning advice, we would have been sitting ducks. Wright finished, his smile never faltering. "Good work, engineer." Wright called for an emergency meeting with the Sci-Fi High Command. When their representatives arrived, he greeted them with the same unwavering grin he had worn since day one. "We have discovered something interesting in our systems," Wright said, his voice pleasant. "Perhaps you can explain it." He displayed Garcia's findings on the main screen. The Sci-Fi representative's skin changed colors rapidly, shifting from blue to gray to a sickly yellow. "This must be a misunderstanding," the lead diplomat said. "We had no knowledge of this code." Wright's smile grew just a fraction wider. "That's interesting, because we've traced it directly to your command ship's programming team." The room went silent. The Sci-Fi exchanged nervous glances. "When did you discover this?" one of them finally asked. "We've known since day one," Wright replied, still smiling. He tapped a button, and dozens of intercepted communications appeared on screen. "Just as we've known about your deal with the Makari Empire, an agreement to divide human territories between you after we were eliminated." The Sci-Fi representatives froze. Their neck tendrils flattened completely against their bodies, a sign of extreme fear. Later, after the Sci-Fi had been escorted back to their ship, Medical Officer Paul Robinson found Wright alone in his ready room. "Captain, may I speak freely?" Robinson asked. "Of course, Doctor. I'm concerned about the psychological strain you're under. Maintaining this performance for months can't be easy." Wright's smile remained steady. "What makes you think it's a performance?" Robinson hesitated. "The human face isn't designed to hold one expression indefinitely. It's unnatural." "For us, perhaps," Wright said, "but our new friends don't know that. They think I'm either insane or have some secret plan they can't figure out. Either way, it keeps them off balance." "And which is it?" Robinson asked quietly. Wright just smiled. On the Sci-Fi command ship, chaos reigned. The failed trap and Wright's revelations had thrown their leadership into disarray. Commander Zalthar paced in his quarters, his scales shifting between colors. "How did they know?" he demanded of his intelligence officer. "We were careful. Our plan was perfect." "I don't know," the officer replied. "But I've been studying human facial expressions. Their captain's constant smile. It's not normal, even for humans." "What do you mean?" "Humans use smiles in specific social contexts. A permanent smile like his, it's either a sign of serious mental dysfunction, or what?" Zalthar demanded. "Or it's deliberate, meant to confuse us. Their species evolved as predators, not herd animals like us. They don't need transparent emotional signals." Zalthar stared out at the stars. "You mean all this time, while we thought we were manipulating them, they were watching us, testing us?" The officer's voice dropped. "And we failed." Across the void, on the bridge of the UNSS Horizon, Captain Wright sat in his command chair, smiling as he read the latest intelligence reports. The Alliance was crumbling. The Sci-Fi were in disarray, and his plan was working perfectly. Lieutenant Ross approached. "Sir, the Sci-Fi High Command is requesting another meeting. They seem frightened." Wright nodded, his grin widening slightly. "Good. It's time they understand who they're dealing with." The human captain's grin. "We didn't understand until it was too late." Part 5. The Alliance was officially over. 3 days after Wright exposed the Sulfuri betrayal, both sides formally ended their partnership. But the captain wasn't done yet. Lieutenant Commander Gregory Howard led a small team tasked with understanding Sulfuri psychology. Their findings proved incredibly valuable. They evolved from herd prey, Howard explained during the briefing. Their entire society is built on clear emotional signals and group trust. Deception exists in their culture, but it's rare and severely punished, which explains their reaction to being caught, Lieutenant Ross added. Howard nodded. But there's more. Their greatest fear isn't death or even defeat. It's emotional unpredictability. They simply can't process it. Captain Wright smiled his unchanging smile. And that's why my expression disturbs them so deeply. Exactly, sir. To them, your constant smile is like static noise in what should be a clear signal. It creates deep psychological discomfort, even fear. Wright considered this information. Can we use this? We already are, Howard replied. Word has spread through their fleet about this smiling human captain. Some of their crew are refusing to view communications from our ship. Wright nodded. Let's push further. I want my face on every transmission we send them, no matter how routine. The psychological warfare campaign began in earnest. Captain Wright's smiling face appeared on Sulfuri screens at random intervals, sometimes with simple messages about ship movements, sometimes with no message at all, just the smile, watching. Navigator Susan Mitchell monitored the Sulfuri communications. Sir, their officers are reporting sleep disturbances. Several have requested transfers away from diplomatic duties. Good, Wright said. Keep the pressure on. A week later, they intercepted medical reports from the Sulfuri flagship. 3 senior officers had been relieved of duty due to what translated roughly as predator fear syndrome. They reported nightmares about the human who bares teeth without attacking. On the bridge, Wright reviewed these reports with his senior staff. It's working better than we hoped. Medical Officer Robinson frowned. Sir, this is approaching psychological torture. It's war, Doctor, Wright replied, his smile never faltering. And we're winning without firing a shot. That evening, Wright received an urgent message. A Sulfuri diplomat wanted to meet privately, away from both fleets. Against his officer's advice, Wright agreed. The meeting took place on a small, neutral space station. Wright arrived first, sitting calmly at the table with his unchanging smile. When the Sulfuri diplomat entered, Wright noticed immediately how the alien skin had dulled, a sign of extreme stress. Captain, the diplomat said, I come unofficially. My government doesn't know I'm here. Wright nodded, still smiling. What can I do for you? Your face. The diplomat began, then paused. Your expression. It haunts our people now. Stories are spreading through our fleet. Some say you're not truly human. Others say you can see the future, that you smile because you already know how everything will end. Wright said nothing, just maintained his grin. Please, the diplomat continued, just tell me what it means. Is it a threat? A warning? What do you want from us? Wright leaned forward slightly. What do you think it means? The diplomat's neck tendrils curled tightly. We don't know. That's the problem. Our species evolved to read emotional cues clearly. Your smile could mean anything, and that uncertainty is unbearable. Interesting, Wright said. And how does that affect your military planning? It's paralyzing us. Commanders are second-guessing every decision, wondering what you know that they don't. The diplomat looked down. Our Supreme Commander has requested direct contact with you. The first time in our history that our highest leader has ever requested to meet an alien personally. Wright's smile grew just a fraction wider. I look forward to it. When Wright returned to the horizon, Ross was waiting. How did it go, sir? Their entire military structure is crumbling from within, Wright replied. And all because of this. He pointed to his smile. It's amazing, Ross said. You've weaponized a facial expression. Humans have always been good at psychological warfare, Lieutenant. Wright's grin remained steady. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't what you do, but what your enemy thinks you might do. The human captain's grin. We didn't understand until it was too late. Part 6. The meeting with the Sci-Fi Supreme Commander was set to take place on neutral ground, a small station at the edge of disputed space. As Captain Wright prepared to board the shuttle, Lieutenant Ross approached him. "Sir, are you sure about this?" she asked. "It could be a trap." Wright nodded, his smile firmly in place. "It could be, but I don't think so. Their culture values direct confrontation for resolving major conflicts. This meeting is a sign of respect, however reluctant. Will you maintain the smile during the meeting?" Wright adjusted his uniform. "What do you think, Lieutenant?" Ross studied her captain's face. "I think it's time for a different strategy." When Wright's shuttle docked at the station, a group of heavily armed Sci-Fi guards escorted him to the meeting chamber. Inside, the Supreme Commander waited alone. The alien leader was larger than other Sci-Fi Wright had met, with scales that shifted between deep purple and gold, colors of authority in their culture. "Captain Wright," the Supreme Commander said through the translator. "Finally, we meet face to face." Wright nodded, still smiling. "An honor, Supreme Commander." The alien leader studied Wright's expression. "That smile has become infamous among my people. Some of my officers cannot sleep because of it. So I've heard. Will you maintain it throughout our entire conversation, even now, when we are alone?" And then, for the first time since their first contact months ago, Wright's smile vanished. His face became completely neutral, almost cold. The change was so sudden that the Supreme Commander physically recoiled, scales flashing bright yellow in alarm. "No," Wright said simply. "I don't think that's necessary anymore." The Supreme Commander's translator crackled as the alien spoke rapidly. "Your face, it changed. Why now? What does this mean?" "It means we're moving to a new phase," Wright explained. "You never understood what the smile meant. It wasn't friendship or aggression. It was patience." At that moment, Intelligence Officer Nathan Bell entered the room with a data tablet. He placed it before the Supreme Commander. "This contains everything we know about both Sci-Fi and Makari military capabilities," Bell said, "including weaknesses in both your defensive systems that you thought were secret." The Supreme Commander's scales paled. "How did you get this information?" "We've had it for months," Wright replied, his face still serious. "While you were plotting with the Makari against us, while you were trying to decipher my smile, we were gathering intelligence on both your species." Bell opened the files on the tablet. "We know about the Makari's unstable warp drive technology. We know about your fleet's vulnerability to certain radiation frequencies. We know about the secret communications channel you've maintained with the Makari leadership." The Supreme Commander stared at the human captain. "Why show me this now?" "Because the Makari have betrayed you, just as you betrayed us," Wright said. "They're moving a fleet into position to attack your homeworld while your main forces are here with us." The alien leader's scales turned ash gray. "How do you know this?" Wright's face remained expressionless. "Because humans have always understood something that both your species missed. The most dangerous predator isn't the one that roars the loudest. It's the one that watches and waits." "And the smile?" the Supreme Commander asked quietly. "Humans smile widest when we know something others don't," Wright explained. "It's been that way throughout our history, a signal to our own kind that we have the upper hand." The Supreme Commander looked down at the tablet, skin shifting through colors of distress. "What happens now?" Wright's cold expression softened slightly. "Now we negotiate. For real this time. Because the Makari are still coming, and neither of us can afford another betrayal." As the Supreme Commander processed this information, a tiny smile, different from before, more genuine, flickered briefly across Wright's face. "And now you're beginning to understand what you're dealing with." The human captain's grin. "We didn't understand until it was too late." Part 7. From the personal log of Supreme Commander Vexnar of the Sci-Fi Confederation. "The human captain's grin haunts me still. Even now, as I record this final entry before our new accord is signed, I see that smile in my dreams. We assumed it was a sign of weakness, a nervous display of submission. We didn't understand until it was too late that humans smile widest when they have already won. The Makari attack came exactly as Captain Wright predicted. Their fleet appeared at the edge of our home system just 3 days after our meeting. Had Wright not warned us, our world would have fallen. Instead, human ships arrived alongside ours, forming a defensive line that the Makari could not break. When the battle ended, both the Makari and Sulfuri forces were weakened, while the human fleet remained largely intact. And there, in the middle of the battlefield, sat the UNSS Horizon, perfectly positioned between our forces. Today I must face the consequences of our actions. The humans have called for a new galactic accord, and we have no choice but to accept their terms. 3 days later, representatives from all 3 species gathered on the neutral station. The room was large and circular, with each delegation seated in equal distance from the others. Captain Wright sat at the head of the human group, his face now showing a range of expressions that still confused the Sulfuri observers. "The terms are fair," Wright said as the meeting began. "Non-aggression between all 3 species, open trade routes, shared defense against outside threats." The Makari representative hissed, "And what guarantees do we have that humans won't use their position to dominate both our peoples?" Wright smiled slightly, a small, controlled expression, nothing like his previous unsettling grin. "The same guarantee we have that you won't try to betray us again. Mutual interest in survival." As the negotiations continued, Lieutenant Ross watched her captain carefully. The change in him since dropping his tactical smile was remarkable. He seemed more relaxed, more natural, though she knew he was still playing a careful strategic game. "The terms are acceptable," the Sulfuri Supreme Commander finally said. "We will sign the accord." After a long debate, the Makari agreed as well. When the formal signing was complete, Wright approached the Supreme Commander privately. "Was it all a performance?" the alien leader asked. The smile, the apparently naive trust, all of it. Wright considered the question. "Not entirely. Humans are complex. We can hold multiple intentions at once. I genuinely wanted peace, but I was also prepared for war." "And now, what does your current expression mean?" "Cautious hope," Wright replied. "Which is the truth." 1 year later, the Galactic Accord was holding. The Horizon had been reassigned to exploration duties, with Captain Wright promoted to Admiral and given command of a small fleet. At the first anniversary celebration of the Accord, representatives from dozens of species gathered. Many had heard stories about the human captain whose smile had defeated 2 powerful enemies without firing a shot. As the formal dinner began, a new figure entered the room. Captain Olivia Ross of the UNSS Discovery. All eyes turned to her as she took her seat among the dignitaries. "Is that her?" A young Sulfuri diplomat whispered to an elder. "The student of the smiling captain." "Yes," the elder replied nervously. "Watch her carefully." As Ross greeted the alien representatives one by one, a small, mysterious smile played across her lips. The Sulfuri and Makari delegates fell silent, finally understanding what that expression truly meant. In the corner of the room, Admiral Wright watched with approval. The lesson had been learned. Throughout the galaxy, species were beginning to understand that humans were not to be underestimated. Their expressions might be confusing, their intentions complex, but one thing was now clear to everyone. When a human captain smiles, the wise pay very close attention. It was not the weapons or the technology that had elevated humanity's position in the galaxy. It was something far more powerful, the ability to hide in plain sight, to win before the battle even began. And sometimes, all it took was a smile.